Good evening, everybody. The date is April 28th of 2016, and I would like to welcome you to the second ever Nick of Time News Show. I want to thank everybody for tuning in this evening. I am your host, Nick Dorsey, and what a night this is going to turn out to be. Of course, this is my second show, which is very exciting. Also, even though it's completely unrelated, it is the NFL draft tonight. So it's arguably the most exciting thing to happen in the offseason. And I'm not going to lie, I'm hoping that my Dolphins can pick up some good talent. Hoping we can make some lemonade from last season and the season before that and the season before that. That's not really important. Arguably, um, even slightly more exciting than that is the fact that Donald Trump tonight will be speaking in my birthplace / homeland of Orange County. Definitely be talking about all that and my episode today on the Republican primary race. But first, I just wanted to take a moment and say thank you, thank you, thank you. My first show was an awesome experience. I got a lot of great feedback. A lot of people shared it. And for the most part, everyone loved it. To be honest, I'm not sure I can produce an episode a day, but I'm definitely going to try. And at the very least, build up to being able to do that. And a lot more exciting things are coming down the pipeline. However, as the program builds, we're going to be making a lot of changes. So, in advance, I would like to thank you for your patience and support. And as usual, hopefully I don't have to do this too much longer. I just want to remind you that I am still seeking donations to get the last of the money I need to do a solid launch 2.0. So if you can do me the favor and keep checking out the page and like the statuses and comment on the statuses when I post about it, so that way they can be seen by more people. Of course, donate, couple dollars, whatever you can to support is much appreciated. And it definitely is going to go a long way in helping me achieve my goals. And then, of course, also share. At the very least, if you can't do anything else, just share, share, share. Tell your friends to tell their friends that Nick Dorsey is going to try and take this country by storm. And also, I just want to say thank you for everyone that has donated so far. Obviously, you realize how important everything is to me in terms of making this happen. And, I do want to take the time to thank you. Now that is out of the way, off the table, hopefully I don't have to talk about it too much longer. I do want to move on to the juice. I want to cut to the mustard that is this great segment that I have planned for you guys today. I did want to take time to talk about my episode today, which is going to be the wild and wacky Republican primary elections. Gosh, there's going to be a lot to say, and it's definitely going to get a little hot in here. So, if you're really conservative listening, just try to see where I'm going with this kind of stuff, and hopefully we can get on the same page here. Before I do that, though, I just want to give you a quick update on my last episode. So I am big about errors. Like I tell people, if you spot any errors, if anything is factually skewed, I want to make sure that I know about it so I can go ahead and correct myself. I definitely try to keep it down to a minimum by doing a ton of research. But there's always a thing or two that may fall through the cracks. You can go ahead and email me. NickOfTimeNews@gmail.com. And then you can also tweet me at NickOfTimeNews on Twitter. But I did want to go ahead and let you know about two errors I happened to catch in my last episode. I had mentioned that Correct the Record, which is Hillary's super PAC, had hired online trolls. Not just to troll, but I said they were also hired to take down the Bernie Sanders pages that were taken down on Facebook. After a good deal of additional research on the issue, more news came down the pipeline. It does look like they did not actually condone shutting the pages down. So I believe I did make a mistake there. They were just trying to troll the users. The only reason I actually believe that they didn't condone shutting the pages down is because it's really not smart. I mean, it's not in their best interest whatsoever. And beyond all the Bernie Sanders fans and Democrats who may have voted for Hillary, I mean, they've really alienated a lot of people who may have voted for her by taking in part of the tactics they've already done. So to further alienate more people, I don't think that they're that unintelligent. They might just do it because they think that it'll win them over people. But I gotta say, I really feel like it definitely could have just been some rogue people from the Hillary camp just trying to make waves in the Bernie Sanders campaign and with the the Bernie Sanders supporters. Because, like I said, they are risking so much in terms of alienating more and more Bernie Sanders fans. It is more likely they were just trolling because in the hopes of getting burners to feel discouraged, creates a number of bad situations for the Bernie Sanders fans. It's something as simple as maybe they stop phone banking or posting as much or paying attention to the groups as much, to something as extreme as they don't even go out and vote for Bernie because they feel like it's already over. I mean, even to be honest though, Hillary and her supporters, and even like the DNC chair and everyone higher up in the Democratic Party, the superdelegates, party officials, they've really all tried to contribute to that feeling. Even from the beginning, when Bernie Sanders was down a good 70 points in the polls, he had barely announced his election. He was already behind hundreds and hundreds of superdelegates because they had already pledged support to Hillary Clinton. So, the sentiment really was, you just got to pack it up and go home because it's already over. And to most burners, just like Sanders himself has said recently, even, it's not over till the last vote's counted. And the reality is, though, is that we are obviously hoping to achieve something, bigger than everything that's happened in politics so far. That's why they're calling it a political revolution. Because it doesn't just stop at this election. There's a fire that's literally been lit in a good portion of the American public that now realizes, or realized before, but now understands that there's a lot of people that share the sentiment that, the system is kind of stacked against us. It's rigged in a way that's designed to have people who are already at the top with power have a bigger voice than people who are at the bottom simply casting votes. So, in terms of the Hillary camp, though, they're obviously using the trolls to achieve something. Because if that wasn't the case, they really wouldn't have shelled out over $1 million into the project. The Super PAC reportedly is spending over $1 million on these trolls. Either way, I stick by my stance. It's the worst way to get young voters into the Hillary camp that I've ever seen or thought of. They really should just abandon the idea as soon as possible. My last correction also is, I said there was two, that was the first one. My last correction is that I am finding out that it was actually regular pornography used in the sting operation to shut down the pages. I had mentioned that it was just child pornography, and after I had seen a couple reports, first-hand accounts, everything like that, it looks like that was very limited. It was just like one post from one user in one group that had used that, and it was not like the bigger issue, which was, there's 8 groups that are shut down. The vast majority of the posts in those groups were just adult, explicit videos and nudity and stuff like that. Not saying it makes it a whole lot better, it's just a small amount of improvement, but the truth is the truth. And I do want to make sure that everybody understands exactly what happened in situations like that. Now, no matter what type of pornography or nude videos or anything that you're using against Facebook's policy, I can't imagine why people would think that's a good idea. I mean, for no matter what candidate you're talking about, whether it's John Kasich, Ted Cruz, Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders, I would never do that. And most of the people I know who are serious about politics would really never do that. Um, it's kind of low. But no matter how I feel about it, it seems like some people from the Hillary camp were feeling rather okay about it because some screenshots emerged showing a celebration of sorts on the Hillary Clinton fans. Now, I don't want to dive too far into technical Facebook things. However, it does show you what's called like a service inbox. So what that means is that if you go into your Facebook account and you report somebody, if you find it, I don't want to go over a long speech about how to find it, but there's a way to get to this service inbox that shows you the status of your reports, whether it's been reviewed. If it was submitted, I'll tell you that, it's they're going to review it, but they did get it. And then, of course, if something happened, it'll tell you the results. So in the case of this particular user, one Casey Champagne, what happened was he had taken a screenshot of his service inbox, and it showed that where it said, thank you for your report on the Bernie Sanders group. It has been removed because it does look like there was violations of the terms. And of course, your name wasn't mentioned, blah, 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 blah. However, it didn't need to mention his name because he was bragging about it by taking credit for it, doing the screenshot, and then posting the screenshot on some Hillary Clinton fan pages on Facebook. Apparently, that was a popular thing to do because a lot of the Hillary Clinton fans were very excited that had been done. And, they were saying a lot of things like, oh, that's so great, and I'm so glad someone did it, and, shut those burners up. And, when it comes down to it, I'm not a fan of silencing other people's opinions. I've gotten into a lot of debates with a lot of people politically because it's almost a pastime for me. But it's not something that I would ever encourage to just say, no, you don't get to have a voice. You don't get to have an opinion. No one's going to listen to your opinion. If anything, I try to use it as an opportunity to educate someone. Somebody's, really, really, really conservative. And I don't agree with whatever they're saying. I don't tell them they can't say it. I just try to use it as an opportunity to get them to see it from another side. So to have, Hillary fans, just acting like it's okay that people's voices were silenced, people were cut off from information, it's just, it's quite alarming. But apparently the Hillary Clinton and the whole group and the what are now starting to be called Hillbots and Hillary Bros and all kinds of stuff. They're really in favor of that kind of stuff. So I don't think they understand that they need burners to win. That it's going to be a very tough, a very uphill battle in the general election if they don't have the support of the almost always liberal and progressive voice of what is a Bernie Sanders fan. Now, anyways, I want to go on and get on to my actual show today, which is about the Republican primary race. Very exciting, very exciting. Obviously, a lot of headlines. There are three people left running. John Kasich, which I would take more time for if he had any chance of winning. Ted Cruz, and you guessed it, Donald Trump, who is holding that little rally I mentioned today in my little slice of the world, which is Orange County. Trump's going to be speaking at the fairgrounds in Costa Mesa, normally where the OC Fair is held, but since they're off season, they have events like Donald Trump. Who would have thought? And I really only have one thing to say about it. Can we bring George Bush back? Because I'm starting to think that might be a little better than the slew of Republicans that we have going on. And especially the one, the only, the Donald. Of course, all kidding aside, I do have a lot to say about this, and I will get to Trump in a minute. But first, I would like to talk a little bit about his closest opponent, Ted Cruz. Because if Trump, isn't going to win the nomination, people would argue that since Ted Cruz has the next most delegates, he really should be the person for the job. Now, the Republicans aren't offering us much insanity, but since this is who we have to talk about, it's my job. I want to let you know exactly who you're dealing with. Now, Ted Cruz, at this point, is kind of doing nothing but making waves. He took one last dip into the still trying to get nominated pool and pulled up Carly Fiorina as his running mate. Now, I don't live in Ted Cruz's head. I don't want to give you the wrong idea. But I imagine this is a final desperate attempt to not only appeal to more people, but to alter the course of the Trump train, which is almost certainly on course for victory. For those that don't remember Fiorina in California, she's the former Hewlett-Packard CEO, the HP CEO, who was running against Barbara Boxer for her Senate seat the same year that Jerry Brown was elected governor. The year that Jerry Brown and Meg Whitman, the former CEO of eBay, were running for the governor position. Now, she also did take a run at the presidential office this year for the Republican side, but she did drop out of the race. She gained very little support overall, and because of that, I imagine to save money and to not waste time, she did end up dropping out. Now, for Cruz to pick a running mate before the nomination, I mean, like I said, in my mind, it just reeks desperation, considering where he is at the delegate race. To get the nomination for the Republicans, you need 1,237 delegates to represent you at the convention. Ted Cruz has 566. There are only 572 left to get. Now, I don't know how quick you are at math, but I'll tell you, those two numbers do not add up to 1,237. So the only way that he can win is in a contested convention. And even then, from what I'm, hearing and reading and researching, I don't think he has a shot. Because a lot of the higher up Republicans, the party officials, the people who make those kinds of decisions in contested conventions, they really don't like him. Even former Speaker of the House, John Boehner, doesn't like him. He even took more shots at the junior senator. And he called him, and I quote, Lucifer in the flesh, end quote. He literally said that to somebody whose biggest stance is saying that I'm religious and I'm going to, put my faith before anything else in the Constitution or anything else in this country. That's kind of scary in a country that's supposed to honor all religions and all faiths. To have somebody who's, a hardcore Christian say that I put my faith first. I mean, it's almost saying that, we're not going to get accurate representation of all people. And if that wasn't bad enough, he even went as far to say, and he's a politician, he said, and I quote again, I get along with almost everyone, but I've never worked with a more miserable son of a itch in my life, end quote. Yes, I did not say it, because it's not a very nice word. That is the kind of rough things that people are saying about Cruz. But I mean, what do you expect? I mean, from someone who's referred to themselves, and this is Boehner I'm talking about, as Donald Trump's texting and golfing buddy. I mean, you're already, obviously, if that's your buddy, you're already interested in somebody else. And, for whatever it's worth, you're probably somebody that likes to speak their mind too. Because as a politician, you just don't normally hear that kind of language coming out of someone's mouth about a fellow politician. Although he is retired, so maybe that plays into it. But either way, what did Cruz respond with? A lie. He totally just lied to our face and said, well, you know, I don't know who Boehner is, basically. I don't know him that well. Cruz was literally quoted. He had a trip to Indiana. Obviously, Indiana is the next delegate race. That's where people are voting next in the beginning of next month in May. And so, of course, Cruz is there trying to do groundwork and, recruit voters. And when he was in his trip to Indiana, he was quoted as saying, in response to Boehner, and I quote, "The truth of the matter is, I don't know the man. I've met John Boehner 2 or 3 times in my life. If I have said 50 words in my life to John Boehner, I'd be surprised. And every one of them has consisted of pleasantries," end quote. Ted Cruz, you are a liar. Pants on fire, my friend. Because what a lot of people know is that John Boehner was the Speaker of the House and Ted Cruz is a Texas senator. What very few people know is that back in 1998, when Cruz was a private practice lawyer, Boehner retained him as his personal counsel when suing Jim McDermott for allegedly breaking wiretapping laws. He's lying to our face. How are you going to say you've never worked with somebody that you represented in court? That is just a bald-faced lie. Did he think that everybody was going to forget about that? Or did he think that people were just going to skate over that little fact? But, the fact of the matter is, Ted not being honest is starting to become a trend. Even Trump, who likes to make up his nicknames to everybody, he called Marco Rubio Little Marco. He calls him Lying Ted for a reason. Ted isn't always honest, but let's be honest, unlike Ted, he's not going to lose because he's a liar. A lot of politicians are liars. The truth of the matter is that Ted Cruz is just too extreme. He's too far to the right to appeal to the majority of the public. Because, as you can see from the voting, he doesn't even appeal to the majority of Republicans. Amongst his most extreme suggestions, he wants to scrape all taxing tiers and impose a flat tax to all Americans. But the argument has been made for decades why we shouldn't have a flat tax. Because if you're taxing someone who makes $30,000 a year at 10%, well, guess what? That $3,000 means a whole lot more to the guy making $30,000. He needs that a lot more than somebody who's making $3 million and who's only going to pay 30%. I'm sorry, I meant to say, and is only going to pay 10%. So, it just doesn't, it doesn't compute. The flat taxes is one of those things that just does not make sense. And if that wasn't enough, he also plans to eliminate the IRS completely. And he's going to eliminate the Department of Energy, the Department of Education, the Department of Commerce, the Department of Housing and Urban Development as well. That's a lot of things. You're talking about each one of those departments has so many programs to even get into would be ridiculous. I would need a whole another 4 or 5 shows to cover everything that all those departments do. But they cover so many aspects of the government to just say overnight, okay, we're done. All those. You just can't do stuff like that. And then on social issues, he's strongly pro-life, which a lot of Republicans are. But he's pro-life to the point of where he said he would only allow the procedure when the pregnancy endangers the mother's life. So in order for you to get an abortion, he would say, you better be dying. You got to be dying. If you're not dying, then you're having the baby. And that means any other situation, including incest, rape, they're ruled out. A woman would have to carry that baby into the world even if she doesn't plan on keeping it. She still has to have it. So it's a little bit extreme on the abortion case, and he's even extreme on the marriage equality. So some Republicans on the top level, they've really given into that. They're just saying, we're going to let marriage exist equally between homosexuals and heterosexuals. Okay, that's fine. We'll let it go. But he's saying not only is he against gay marriage, but he doesn't even believe in civil unions. He wants to see gay marriage and civil unions taken away. And that's just extreme. I've talked to a good number of Republicans who don't like gay marriage, but they'll at least let civil unions happen. But to take away all of it, that's just literally the definition of going backwards. And I think that he's just not getting that many votes because of it. Now, even if it goes to a contested election, the Republicans are going to put up a candidate they feel is going to beat Hillary Clinton, assuming that she wins. And from what is said amongst party officials, Cruz is not their guy. I've heard Kasich being a strong selection because he appeals to more people. He's not as extreme. I've heard of Marco Rubio coming back, and he hasn't given up his delegates yet. So he'll go ahead and go to the convention and see if he can get the seat that he wants. And then as the Republican representative for the general election. And then, of course, I've even heard Paul Ryan. We've actually heard a lot of Paul Ryan. And Paul Ryan himself has said, I think if you want to run for president, I think if you want to be president, you have to actually run for president. And I kind of, get where he's going with that. But as extreme as it sounds, I would even prefer to see Paul Ryan over Donald Trump or Ted Cruz. Which leads me right to my next point. Trump. Whoa. We can all say, how did we get here? But let's be honest. We know how we got here. Nobody took it seriously until, I'd say maybe the beginning of this year. I was saying from the very start, literally what is now, I believe, 9 months ago, we can't let this happen. We cannot let this happen. And everyone's like, Trump, he'll just fizzle out. He'll go away. Well, I got news for you. Not only is he not going away, not only is he winning the Republican vote right now, but there is a strong chance that he will win the Republican nomination. See, unlike Ted Cruz, who doesn't have enough delegates to potentially even reach the necessary 1,237, well, Trump does. Trump has 994. So he is not even that far off from being the guy that has enough delegate representatives to represent the Republican Party after the National Convention. And there's so much I want to say about it. I don't want to run into having an hour show, so I will kind of cut it brief. But, being a misogynist, being xenophobic, being, if not racist, making huge appeals to the racists in this country. The list goes on. But my huge problem with Trump, all those are, just throw that aside for a second. I'm not saying it's not horrible, but let's just throw that aside for a second and just talk about one of the other biggest problems about Trump that very few people talk about. His lack of knowledge of the government and how it works. And I'm talking basic knowledge. I'm not just talking about his lack of experience. That's fine. When I was 18 years old, I got into a call center job. And I'm sorry, I said 18, I meant 16. I got into a call center job. I had no experience in talking to people on the phone. I learned and I got there. So it's not just lack of experience, it's lack of knowledge. There's one thing about going into a call center and having no experience of talking to customers on the phone and not even knowing how a phone functions. That's a totally different scenario. And that's where it comes down to Trump. He didn't understand the nuclear triad. When he was asked about it, he clearly didn't know what that was. He clearly doesn't know about what constitutes as a war crime, or even have basic knowledge of foreign policy, which he openly admits that he doesn't even have basic knowledge of foreign policy. And when I talk about war crimes, I'm talking about the fact that not only did he say he will do things that are worse than waterboarding to suspects, by the way, these are not convicted criminals. You're talking about people who they only suspect as, being criminals or terrorists, and he wants to do worse than waterboard. He doesn't want to waterboard and bring that back. He doesn't want to only bring back waterboarding. He wants to do things that are worse than that. He wants to kill the innocent wives and children of, again, not convicted but suspected terrorists. And when he was basically addressed about that and said, well, you do realize that those are war crimes and that soldiers are trained to not obey orders like that. And he said, they'll obey orders. And they said, well, why? Because I'll be the president. I'm the president. They have to do what I say. See, you don't even understand that that's not how it works. So you could throw out the other stuff when it comes to obviously using discrimination and, racism and all that other stuff as tactics to gain votes. And you could just talk about the basic capacity of Trump running this country. And it's scary. It's, it actually is looking like that we could be coming down to a Hillary Clinton versus Donald Trump election, general election. And if that's the case, talk about picking the difference between the lesser evils. Picking the lesser evil between the candidates. It's nothing short of frightening. Even when he was asked the basic function of the government, someone asked him, what are the three main, a former military member, by the way, and he said, what are the three main functions of the government, originally? And he responded with defense, which is true, and healthcare and education. No, that actually was not the original purpose of the government. Healthcare and education were not the original purpose. That's not even a Republican answer. That's not even a conservative answer. So it really begs the question, does he really have core beliefs that are set in conservatism? Or is he just trying to appeal to people to gain votes? And if he is just trying to appeal to gain votes, and he really lacks all this knowledge, and of course, openly lacks the experience, why are people voting for him? And, a lot of the things that gets brought up is the fact that there's, violence at his rallies and people protesting his rallies. How come, of all the Republicans, he's the only person that's garnishing that kind of reaction from people? He's the only person who has violence at his rallies all the time. No one ever talks about that. They always say, well, Republicans don't show up to the Democratic rallies because we have respect for another person's opinion. But the reality of the situation is no one ever shows up to Ted Cruz rallies protesting, or John Kasich, or Bobby Jindal, or Jeb Bush, or anybody else who's ran for the Republican nomination this year. And if they did, it was very few, and there definitely wasn't any violence at their rallies. So what I don't understand is the fact that people aren't getting that all of this centers around one person. Now, if you rewind the clocks, go back to, even just like 8 years ago, 9 years ago. Shocking, I know. I was a fan of Donald Trump because me and my parents used to watch The Apprentice, and we had a good time and we liked it. And I thought, man, this is a good businessman. And you know what? I've come back to even watching a couple of those episodes to see, like, why did I even like this guy in the first place? And you know what I realized? He's all he is reality TV. You look at the way that he handles even some of the contestants on there and the things that he says, like telling one of the contestants, she's like, I was on my knees. Oh, that must be a pretty picture. He never really was a good businessman. He's what you imagine a good businessman would act. But if you look at his failed business ventures, which are almost everything that he actively worked on himself, you'll see that he really is not that great of a businessman. He makes a lot of money from the Trump brand. He doesn't actually go around and build all those buildings. He just leases out his name because he knows when his name's on a building, they're going to be able to get a lot more clients, prospective people to run their businesses in there because of the Trump name on the top. It garnishes respect from people because they're not familiar with, everything that he's done. They're not familiar with all the failed business ventures that he's been a part of. And I'm not just talking about Trump steaks. I'm not just talking about, the stuff that is out there that people keep citing. I'm talking about, like the buildings the projects he himself ran and was involved with, in Florida. That where he ended up getting thrown off the project, he ended up getting sued. They ended up winning the lawsuit. He was bringing in workers from other countries in order to build those buildings in the first place, so he didn't have to pay people as much. And then in turn is trying to throw out undocumented folks in this country. It's all very hypocritical. And, it's all hidden behind the fact that you see everything that he says, and it just sounds like one big long sales pitch. I remember vividly, I make fun of it all the time, when he said, I went to an Ivy League university, I have words, I have the best words. That was a real quote from Donald Trump. We're losing all the time, we're losing. I want to win again, let's win. We're going to win so much that you guys are going to get sick of all this winning. There's no substance in that. Even when Ted Cruz or John Kasich or Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders, when they get up and speak, they said, here's the problem, A, B, C, D. Here's how we're going to fix it, X, Y, Z. Even if it's not true, there's substance, there's depth. But Donald Trump is nothing more than a reality TV show wrapped around having no class, wrapped around personal attacks, Little Marco, Lion Ted. Hillary Clinton can't wait until I get on her. Just wait. I'm going to go ahead and start attacking her and she'll really see. It's like, it leaves so much unanswered that I just don't understand how anyone could vote for Donald Trump. Even if you throw away everything else, if you take away wanting to build the wall, if you take away what he said about Mexicans, if you take away what he said about Muslims, which a lot of people are not willing to do, a lot of conservative Republicans are. So my appeal is really to them. How could you vote for him even just based off of lack of basic knowledge of how the government works and no knowledge of foreign policy? All I gotta say is, we will see. Only time will tell. Because if this is what the country has to offer, if this is the best that we have to offer, then we're not going to make America great again. Or ever. because we are going the wrong direction. We are not doing the things that we need to do in order to achieve real progress in this country. So if you yourself, are voting for Trump, I challenge you. Tweet me, email me. Let me know what your reasons are beyond he speaks his mind. Let me know exactly why you think Trump is going to be better than anybody else who's running. Because I want to have that conversation. And I want to see what it is in depth that he is going to do that is better than everything else that's out there. So what we're going to do is we're going to be tracking the Republican primary race. There's only a handful of contests left. We are definitely on the tail end of the primaries. We got a little bit left in the Democratic primary, a little bit left in the Republican primary. For the most part, unless it's a contested convention in either, it does look like we will be seeing a Hillary Clinton versus Donald Trump general election. So let the fireworks fly, because it's going to be one for the books. Lastly, I want to thank you for tuning in today. Again, I would like for you to go ahead and, if you like what you heard here today, subscribe to my YouTube channel, like the video below, and then, of course, in the description is the GoFundMe. I will talk about that until we reach what we need to, because it is super important that we're continuing to get this information out to the general public and build this into something that's going to be amazing. So I can't do it alone. I know that you are all here with me, and I just want to say thank you so much for the support. My next episode should be coming out in the next day or two, so go ahead and stay tuned for that. And if you haven't gotten the chance to follow me on Twitter, I'm on Twitter at NickOfTimeNews, all together, all lowercase. Go ahead and tweet at me. Let me know what you thought about the show today. This has been your host, Nick Dorsey, with the Nick of Time News Show. Until next time.